G'day viewers, it's time to learn how to drive the DB Red Class 66 on West Coast Main Line Southern. Alrighty, let's climb in. First thing I want to do is get the door open and sidle up to the ladder and climb on in. Shut that door, spin yourself around, open the next door, shut that one. Open the fuse cabinet, turn on the AWS and TPWS safety system. Don't think there's anything else to turn on in there, so let's close that. Let's get our headlights to day running. And instrument lights, let's pop them on. Don't need our tail lights, let's sit down in the chair. Now let's check the state of our brake. So let's have a look at this. We want to, I think we're actually cut in because that says brake cut out, but let's just make sure. Brakes are cut in. Excellent. Good. So we can, no. Come out of there. Very good. And we now want to do some stuff. Put our reverser in. And we'll acknowledge the AWS with the Q key. No need to turn on banking com because it's just us. And we want to start releasing our brakes. So we'll get the train pumped up to 5 and it is time to go. And get the independent released as well, and let's get some juice on before we start rolling away backwards. What kind of train have we got? Containers by the looks. And there's a fair field, I'm guessing. Yes, that's not a bad train by English standards. Might be a little while before that starts to move. The train brake is actually still pumping up. As you can see here, the airflow indicator, there's still plenty of litres per second pouring through the system. It's nice to see an airflow indicator that actually works as well. That's kind of cool. When I released the brakes before, the automatic brake is released with this one. You just have to keep pulling it back until it does it. And the direct brake is released with this one. That's about it for the Class 66. Now that we're moving, we can go for another notch. You want to keep your power band in the green if you can. If you go into the red, it's not very good for the locomotive. Now, I don't think the Class 66 actually has an alerter, but whenever you get a AWS trigger, you will need to respond to that. So when you hear the ping, you will need to respond to it. Otherwise, it will stop you. So I'm hoping that signal up there stays yellow because I'd love to show you what happens so I can show you how to reset it. Just keeping our power right on the edge of being safe. It's gradually notching up through the notches. The Class 66 sounds familiar to American players, it's because it's an American locomotive. It is actually an EMD. Looks like that signal may just stay yellow, so we might be lucky. Because I'm going to let it stop the train, I'm not going to acknowledge it, so just so I can show you what to do. A double yellow, whatever's in front of us is pulling away. Actually, I'll acknowledge it on this one, so I'm going to acknowledge with the Q key when it goes bing. So Q key or circle or B depending on your controller flavour. And when we get up to the next one, which will be a solid yellow, I'm not going to acknowledge it, and we'll let it stop the train. It's not foggy inside the tunnel. It's interesting. Ooh, bit of a light banking issue there, I think. This is an early build. Hopefully it's rectified for release. I will report it. Alright, so I'm not going to stop it this time. AWS wants us to acknowledge, but I'm not going to. There we go, it's dumped the air. So we react by throttling back to 0, because it's already cut our power off anyway. And if we're lucky, it'll stop us before we get to this red signal. Alrighty, so AWS has done the right thing and stopped us. We can acknowledge that now. And now we have to wait for our penalty. You can see the brake demand light is on up there. So now we've got to wait a minute, which will be fun, of course, until the brakes can start charging up. I don't think you can force it. Nope. So we're just going to have to wait out the minute. Meanwhile, let's have a look around the West Coast main line. We've got some typical housing stock up there, and a 350. And a 710. It's a good way to spend a minute, isn't it? Looks like we've got some new graffiti on this line too, which is cool. It's the London Overground 710. And, of course, train art. Very good. I wonder if we've managed to go a minute yet. Let's have a look. Let's try and release now. So I'm just putting the brake handle. Yep, we've gone the minute. So I'm just repeatedly doing the brakes, and it's coming in steps. I think if I actually hold it, it'll do it all in one go. It's only with Rail Driver. It's a bit weird, and you've got to keep flicking it. So it will take quite a while to charge the train brake up. So the locomotive's back to 5 bar now, so it's fine. And we can see that the brakes have come off in the locomotive because we've got 00 down here on this gauge. But we can also see by the airflow gauge that there's a ton. Ooh, look, 72. Was this a good service to pick or what? Showing off the route, lovely. And a pendolino. God, we've got everything. Alright, well, that's it. That's the route introduction complete. I don't need to show you anything else. I'm being facetious, it's okay. Now we can see that the train is still pumping up, so once that airflow gauge gets down to 0, we'll actually be able to move. Now we should be able to start applying some power, so I will, but not much. Because I don't want to burn my traction motors out while we're sitting here, but I also don't want to start rolling uncontrollably. So we're in the red, so I'm just going to pop it back down to notch 1. Just to keep it in the green, because we are still pulling against the brakes in the back. It won't be until this gauge here actually gets down to 0 that we know the whole train's charged up properly. I guess it's still pumping lots and lots of air. See there, the 66 does have suspension. It's quite apparent at low speeds. I suppose the only other thing I really need to show you about the 66 is stopping and shutting down, so we will do that in just a moment when the train is fully charged up, and that'll be the end of this tutorial. Meantime, we'll keep driving towards Milton Keynes. There's another 350, a couple of parked 710s over on the right. Nice busy field at this segment of the route at this time of day, 6:30 in the morning. It's near enough. We'll pretend that we're going to park the thing here. So basically I have notched back to 0 on the throttle. And I'm now going to apply a bit of brake. Till we come to a stand. put on the direct brake. Switch off the Denfield. Put the reverser back into neutral. And remove it. And we put our lights into off. And if we were going to be actually getting towed by another locomotive, you would actually cut the brakes out, which would be with select and cut out. But we're not going to do that, so we're just leaving a service, and I want the AI to be able to drive it, so I'll just leave that alone. Alright, we can now get off the train. Just leave it for another driver. Because clearly, we just don't care anymore. Find the door spot, there it is. Alrighty, that's it for your introductory tutorial to the Class 66 in DB Red on West Coast Main Line. That's it. Alright. Have fun, folks. If you've got any questions, chuck them down below. It's having a bit of a wiggle. Saying goodbye. It's going, that's okay. Alright, if you've got any questions, chuck them down below. Give us a like and a subscribe, and enjoy. Bye now.
We played a game.